Welcome to this training program. I'm sure you have already received the program, so you have an idea of what you are going to be subjected to in the next 5 days. I'll just briefly share with you what is really the idea of this kind of training. And you will be hearing a lot about South Asia from individual countries as well as in terms of a broader perspective. Why should we be organizing a South Asian training? Because normally we manage with our own countries and don't really feel the need to look beyond. Well, one reason, whether we like it or not, South Asia is a region now, and I will be elaborating a little bit on what is South Asia today. So it is a region, and like the rest of the world, we are also trying to form a kind of a regional arrangement of close economic and social cooperation, and we have a framework in the form of SAARC, which is South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, and this has been there since 1985, and it is the only region in this world, because the world is very clearly organized on regional basis today. It is the only region which is largely dysfunctional, and despite the passage of some 25 years, SAARC has not made much progress in practical terms, although there are a lot of charters or protocols or conventions which have been framed and agreed upon, and if put into practice, they can help the people of South Asia a lot. All the governments in South Asia have committed themselves to promoting people-to-people contact, to work together for the well-being of people of South Asia. There is a SAARC Development Fund, and about a few kilometers from here, there is a South Asian University, which has been set up in the framework of SAARC, and luckily now it is functional, and there are students from all the South Asian countries. So there is one sort of very concrete example of how cooperation can work. But there are other crucial areas where our states have failed to cooperate. For example, we all know terrorism is a huge problem in the whole of South Asian region, starting from Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. We all have a very well organized terrorists, and then they go to Nepal. They use that as their launching ground. So there is hardly, I think maybe Bhutan doesn't have any terrorists right now, and that is why they can have a happiness index, if you know about that. But the rest, every country has terrorists, and they suffer, and obviously the people suffer because it is not the big people in this region who suffer at the hands of the terrorists, the ordinary people. There is a SAARC convention since 1987. It's called SAARC Convention on Combating Terrorism. It provides very, very elaborate kind of a base for creating a mechanism where countries of South Asia work together, and if they do so within the context of that convention, they can very effectively counter and combat terrorism and provide relief to their citizens. But for reasons known better to those who run our states, they have not really put it into practice. They made a reference to that at the SAARC summit, which was held in 2009 after the Mumbai attack, and they said we will adhere to that, but even after 5 years now, there is no such mechanism. So the idea of people of South Asia coming together is one, to share experiences, and as we will be talking about individual countries, South Asia is another region which is really characterized by first providing fundamental rights in their constitutions and then denying those rights to the people and violating. The state is the biggest violator of fundamental rights in all South Asian countries. But since there are constitutional provisions, there are institutional arrangements. Whether they like the judiciary or not, they have to have a judicial system, and in some cases it functions very well and is able to provide relief to people. So in this particular training program, the focus will be on people's fundamental rights and how activists, lawyers, social activists, peace activists can use legal and judicial systems within their own country, and using the examples from each other's countries to access fundamental rights. And of course, we all know that fundamental rights are integral to any democratic development, and democratic development is imperative for the ordinary people to benefit from the fruits of whether it is independence or economic development or whatever. So these are very closely linked to each other. Therefore, the idea is that we learn from each other's experience, and India in that sense is the best place for all of us to learn from, because of course India is maybe the only uninterrupted functional democracy in South Asia. Everywhere else we either have kingdoms or we keep having our great generals taking over and trying to change the destiny of those countries as well as the people, and end up messing up everything. So this is the only functional democracy. It's also undergoing various changes as a result of the neoliberal economic regime that all the South Asian countries are following. So there is a kind of a tremendous body of experiences of mitigation, of getting verdicts from the courts on a range of fundamental rights that has happened in India, generally known as the public interest litigation sort of process, and we all can learn a lot from that. So that is the main focus, but we also look at other issues facing the people of South Asia, and eventually work towards, because if we want to change what exists in South Asia, we have to really come together, and we will be talking about that later. We have to come together, and the best way of coming together is to work together on the issues of common interest that we are all involved with, and expand this public interest litigation process from country levels to the regional levels. And when we talk about labor issues later tomorrow, you will know that there is a possibility of taking the regional level actions to protect rights of various sections of the working classes. And the case in point will be the fishermen of all the South Asian countries, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, who get arrested by our Navy because they have got nothing better to do. So if you ask them what do you do, they will tell you, we catch fishermen, not even the fish. So so we really have a possibility here to share a lot and take that back to our respective country, but develop a South Asian perspective and an active network of activists, lawyers, to take up human rights issues and push the SAARC process to become really responsive to the needs of the people of South Asia. This region has a lot of potential to really allow people to become independent and free, but it is a tiny minority everywhere which is holding people back. So people of South Asia need to come together, and this is one of the very important areas where if we come together we can make a difference. So we will now I will invite Professor Kamal Mitra Chenoy, who is a very, very old friend. He is, apart from a number of things, he is one of the founding members of the Pakistan-India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy, which was established in September '94 in Lahore. In Flatty's Hotel, where who was that great actor? Yeah. So Flatty's Hotel is a historic hotel in Lahore. Mr. Chenoy used to stay there, and there was a famous Hollywood actress who came to film this Bhavani Junction, and she also stayed there, so there is a plaque for both of them. I'm sure there were other distinguished people who stayed there. But this forum was launched in a meeting in that hotel, and Kamal was, I think you coined the name. This name, Pakistan-India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy, we had a long discussion, and finally I think Kamal helped us to come to a consensus. So he is the inventor of that name, and he's also very actively engaged in the People's SAARC process. You will get to know more about that in the coming days. He will arrange for some literature on that process. Basically, it's people from various South Asian countries who come together and try to push the SAARC leadership to do something concrete, or at least on the issues that they have agreed upon. So I would invite Kamal to give us a perspective on globalization and human rights violations. Thank you.
Thank you, Karamat. Welcome all of you. I'm also supposed to be an organizer of this meeting, though I've done the least work for it. I teach in the School of International Studies of JNU,